Well, I'm a biologist, but I've been in graduate studies for the last couple of years, and before that, I had the VPR's office, and I'm still kind of associated with VPR's office. And I teach the responsible conduct of research, which is, and you'll hear in a second, it's mandatory for people that are funded by NSF, NIH, and now NIDA, which is part of the USDA. Okay, lots of letters. But we're also encouraging it among all graduate students. So I got to apologize. The slides up until about here, you can see these. This is how it works, right? You just point to it. I don't know. Are sort of about cheating and working with students as instructors, and then the rest of the part's more or less. Oh, you're gonna get a lot of that out of me because this is amazing. All right. Oh, okay. So, the institution, UNM, they want people engaged in research and scholarly activities, and model and foster ethical practices. The institution always wants that to sound like that. But individuals, that's you and your students, you need to worry about doing your own policing to a large extent, and just not tolerate any colleague who is not behaving ethically or without integrity, because it reflects on you, reflects on your discipline, and all that. Okay, next one, good. And for students, honesty and fairness in quizzes and proper citations and following ethical and responsible practices, all that is, that's all the ideal. But we all know students cheat. I mean, cheating is like 60, 70%. It is. So what do we do about that? And a lot of that carries over into the research culture in a way. We can discuss that another time. And we find cheating on quizzes. So we tend to see the breach really in integrity recognize integrity when it's in its breach, and that is cheating or plagiarizing or fabricating data, unauthorized collaboration, falsifying grades, all that kind of stuff. I mean, this was on the Rosen report on the Today Show about 2 years ago, where, the guy Rosen, you ever watched the Today Show? Anyway, I don't know what his first name is. Anyway, he goes out and he bought the services of companies that were advertising that advertise above average grades while you sleep through your class. Only $90. And I mean, so it's something that it's in our culture for some reason. And our job, not just my job, is to get it out of our culture and change that culture. But why? Why does it exist? Okay, peer acceptance, lack of understanding of what integrity means, lack of institutional policies or codes, and that's a big discussion point. Do we have professional codes of conduct? Lack of detection, lack of consequences, and high stakes assignments. So if you give your students, the big final paper at the end, that's all they have their grade depending on, and they wait, that's May 4th that it's due, and they wait until after Easter to even think about it, and that's a problem. So you can help by avoiding that. But this says rampant plagiarism in 2 journals. I just put that up there just to remind me that National Science Foundation and NIH and others, plagiarism is the number one thing, and that's one of the reasons why they've imparted a lot of these programs. So what can students do? I don't know. Take good notes. That's not important. But what are UNM's policies? And that's where the little handout comes in. There's in the handout, I think it's box 5 and box 6 and 7. That's just reference for you guys to know UNM's policies, where to find them. There's the UNM Pathfinder, how you do appeals and sanctions. And you go ahead and if you see a student cheating, there's a process, and it's up to the instructor really. That you're the first line of defense, if you will, and it's up to you. If you're really mad about it, you can lower the boom. And there's a form to file, and you go to the dean of students and all that. And the dean of students office is really good about tracking repeat offenses, and that's the importance of reporting dishonesty. If it's just one occasion, somebody just, had a bad day and they just had to write all the answers between their fingers, I have really fat fingers, so I can get a lot on there. That's a bad day. But if someone is chronic and it happens in a sociology class, happens in an engineering class, the dean of students is the one that's going to keep track of that, and they'll be the folks that Rob Burford in particular will be the folks that can do something about it. So anyway, that's just some information about that. Here's wait. I know you can do this. Hold on. Yeah. Okay. Here's where AIR comes in. AIR is Academic Integrity and Research Ethics. This is a program that we have through graduate studies, and because of these trends of cheating and cutting corners noticed by federal funding agencies like the National Science Foundation, there's a whole set of new regulations that was generated in 2010 by NSF and by NIH, and so you all should be aware of those. There's a link to those. The bottom line is that postdocs, graduate students, and undergraduates who are supported by these funds must be certified in RCR, the Responsible Conduct of Research, within 1 year of funding. This is the bottom line of what I want to tell you. And the AIR program provides the training in many ways, and then we also track graduate students who are funded and have completed their training. And this is for the purposes of the Office of Inspector General compliance. Between you and me, there's not a lot of funds to go around and do compliance checks, but they are picking on institutions in various places strategically to make examples of it. So the Office of Inspector General is looking. And it's a compliance act, just like for the IRB or the IACUC, the folks who work on animals and the other ones, the humans. So that's the bottom line. This slide is a mess because it's supposed to be PowerPoint, so we'll go on. I tried to make sense of it earlier. I'm sorry, Vanessa, I really did. This one, I figured out how to do that, huh? Okay. So, misconduct. What is misconduct? Like I said, you're a bunch of fabricators, and you're going to Maryland, or I don't know, why not? That's where NSF is. So misconduct, actual misconduct is fabrication, falsification, and plagiarism. And that's it. And there's a federal CFR, Code of Federal R's, Federal Register, that defines what fabrication, falsification, and plagiarism is. And that's really important. But what is really the issue is that these questionable research practices, for instance, you give 2 research projects to the same graduates, to different graduate students, the same research project to 2 graduate students to see who can do it the fastest. That's not ethical. You're wasting federal funds, but it's not against any particular rule. It's not misconduct. Sending an article, a paper to a refereed journal, the same manuscript to 2 journals, and not telling the editors that, I sent this one to Nature, and I'm sending this one to you, Science. That's not misconduct, but it's not ethical. Sexual favors. We already know that's not a good idea. And but there's a whole long list of behaviors. Outliers, points on data that are erased because it's not clean. It's not misconduct, but it's not ethical. So these are the kinds of issues that we go through when we go through the RCR training, is we talk about those questionable research practices. And there's been meta studies, so that means studies, not just really big studies, but studies of studies, right? That have looked at all the different surveys of people and asked them the questions: why do you cheat, or why do you cut corners? And estimates are a lot higher, like about 30%, 10 to 30% of people that are cutting corners. And there's pressures that make that kind of help you want to go along, like getting raises or promotions or getting papers published or getting grants funded, but you'll probably get caught at some point. So we talked about that. when should you speak out? How should you speak out? But being a whistleblower is crazy because you're not going to ever. It's not a good experience. I don't know if everybody's had that experience or not. But if you see something, you should say something. That's the bottom line. And there's some quotes and some things that I could bring up to help enforce that. But especially if there's criminal action involved, or you notice research misconduct, or there's physical injury, or facilities or equipment or other resources are at risk. Let's see. Oh yeah, okay. These are the famous people. This isn't actually working at all like the PowerPoint either, because there's little hyperlinks that you can then go look at the case. This is at the Office of the Inspector, this is at the Office of Research Integrity, which is in Health and Human Services. And these are all people that have been found guilty of misconduct. There's not a lot of them every year. Maybe up to 20. But they're doozies. They're really good cases, and where papers are not just rejected, and where graduate students are not just kicked out of the lab because their funding's dried up, but their careers are basically ruined. That one, yeah, okay. And just last year in San Diego, April 8th, 2014, this works different in PowerPoint too, as you'll hear me say a couple more times. A bunch of cancer researchers got together, and they wanted to look at the whole issue of irreproducibility of studies. And as it says here, a project was undertaken by Amgen researchers to reproduce the results of more than 50 published studies. The vast majority were not reproducible, even by the original researchers. That's another issue. So there's sort of new things that are coming to light as we're learning more about the responsible conduct of research. So we've added a whole module on reproducibility. How and why is that important? There's a whole series in Nature, the journal Nature, about the pluses and minuses and the strengths and even the weaknesses of reproducing studies. I mean, science is all about the idea of following a hypothesis and generating data and results, blah, 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 and then now someone else can do it because I gave you such a great trail. You know, I wrote all my methods down. You can use my lab book. Here are the samples. Go to it. Well, that's not so easy anymore. So what the folks in San Diego came up with, they found out that there was commonly cell lines were mislabeled, the wrong cancer type, lack of blind or controls, inappropriate stats. Statistics is huge. And the top tier journals were somewhat to blame for this because they want to tell a good story. It's kind of like Channel 4 News, you know. Oh, amazing things just happened, but we'll tell you at 10. You know, God, that's crazy. Anyway, so, and then funding strains. I mean, in times of low funding and high competition for money, which is kind of all the time, that's a strain, and people want to tell a good story and get their grant funded over someone else's. So the solution for these guys was a Wikipedia-like reporting on cell lines. And one fellow said the punishment should be getting kicked out of the profession. That does happen, but it's not. So just to give you, let's see if I can figure this one out. Wait. Okay. So the three funding agencies currently, this is what they recommend in their regulations, that undergraduate students, graduate students, and postdoc researchers that have NSF or NIH or NFIA support, those folks are the ones that must go through RCR training. The institution must have a plan. We do. It's called the plan. No, it's called the Scientific Integrity Plan. And document and certify folks that go through it, have a standard set of offerings, which we do, and then do it within a year of when the award was made, and then do a renewal or recertification about every 4 years, and that's what we do. And then face-to-face is preferred. Why not just do a bunch of online training? Like the CITI, it's great stuff. Lots of information. Lots of really good information in CITI, I like it. ALAS for animal subjects, great stuff. Why not just do a great stuff for the responsible conduct of research? How much time do I have?
Do it for
What?
you. You can have somebody else do it for you when it is.
What? You can cheat? On your ethics test? Oh my gosh, that's horrible. Yeah, right. That's actually what happens quite a bit. And or you can get your lab, whatever person to just sit down at everybody's computer and go through and do the same quizzes, or you can just jump right to the end. Am I giving something away here? So NSF realizes this, and so they want at least some participation. And then there's some subject matter, and that's good. This is the core areas of instruction, and really when you look at it, it's actually some pretty fun stuff, I think. So, and you've heard about it, some of it today. You've got an overview of conflicts of interest and commitment. You heard a little bit about human subjects and the other animals and research. Authorship, ethics, and publications. That's kind of interesting. Data management, acquisition, ownership, sharing, and replication. That's part of it now. Peer review, mentoring, and mentee relationships. That's pivotal in a lot of the studies. A good, strong mentor is someone that's going to really have students that are of high integrity. What misconduct is, whistleblower ethics, collaborative research, which is getting bigger and bigger, especially with big data and all those questions. And then scientists as responsible members of society. So what are our responsibilities to the rest of the world, or just society? We're almost done here. We have a number of ways to go about this. You see these cards here, the PAW, the Professional and Academic Workshops, and there's a whole bunch of different groups that are participating. It's just a collaborative of groups. The very top one, of course, is ethics. And so if you get your students involved or yourself involved in signing up for PAW courses if you can. And then this is something I want to ask you a quick question. Is that, if I can, okay. So this is, the first part of this slide is actually nested behind this current one because it was PowerPoint. But the first slide shows you this guy here behind a computer, and he's deleting data off the screen. You can see the data and the screen and all that. And she's in the background kind of going, huh. And my question was, if he's deleting data, well, what would you do? What would you do? If you saw somebody that you thought, just that scenario, you thought something, what would you do?
There's a good statistical reason for excluding the data.
He's tuning the data?
Have a good statistical reason as an outlier to justify the exclusion of that data.
Exclusion?
If you don't, too bad.
I like tuning the data. Gotcha. Okay, so he's doing that, or what else might you think if you saw somebody that, and it doesn't have to be that particular scenario. What would you do?
You want to know if the answer
Don't
does what
publish
he's
it.
doing in the first place.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't be too rash in your assumption, because you can cause a whole lot of problems within the workplace that you may not necessarily want to have blow up. So you want to gingerly approach it.
So she decided to gently intervene. Why wouldn't you?
Why?
Because you might lose
Because
funding.
I wouldn't be looking over his shoulder to see what happens.
No, you wouldn't do it just because of the fact that you would be afraid of either losing your job or actually having some retaliation.
Right. So, I mean, especially we're talking graduate students and PIs or postdoc, I mean, there could be a power differential, and you could be afraid of losing your job. But you know what? So what? In this case, I know she's the boss because she's got 4 pens. but here's what other people thought, and I know we only have a couple more minutes left. Beautiful pie graphs for your statistics. So just to cut to the quick here is that the red half are people that intervened in at least one case, 53%. And of those that intervened over here, the green and yellow were either satisfied or neither satisfied nor dissatisfied. So about a third of the people had bad feelings after intervening, and about 2/3 had okay feelings or really good feelings after intervening. But look at the catalog of wrongs. here's fabrication, falsification, and plagiarism. Those are the three issues of research misconduct. 600 instances reported. That's pretty good. So, I mean, you might judge whether that's a good move or not, but it may not be a bad move, and you have to kind of be the judge.
All right, is this reported to the home institution, i.e. the university, or is it being sent up the chain to the funding agency?
Good. That's all a good point. This was done by Nature as a separate sort of survey. I think they got IRB approval, etc. But you're right. But what you're talking about is the process of reporting misconduct. Is that there's a process to follow. So if you observe, you make an allegation, you have support. If you're a whistleblower, you always have support. You have people that are on your side somehow, and then you report it and you step out of it. Then the institution evaluates it through a process of investigation and et cetera. And then, if there is a misconduct finding, it is then reported to the funding agency and the Office of Research Integrity and others. So there is a process. And you learn all about that when you take the actual thing. Just so you know, we have some writing software, Authenticate and Turn It In, that are both useful for catching plagiarism. Not just catching plagiarism, but doing it to yourself. Here's a paper of mine that I had 9% plagiarism. As it turned out, I plagiarized the University of New Mexico and Albuquerque, New Mexico a couple of times. But there was also some other things in there that I should have known better, frankly. So run your own stuff through Authenticate before, or something similar, or Google or whatever, before you send it to NSF, before you send your manuscript to Biochemistry Today or whatever, because they're going to do it. You know they're going to do it.
Right.
I just sent a grant off to NSF and I went, oh crap, I didn't do it through Authenticate. And so I ran home, or that weekend I ran it, and I was like, oh, it was like 2%. And the 2% was all, legitimate stuff. Is from my website and stuff. So it was like, oh, thank God. But do it. don't be a me. Anyway, so there's some problems with plagiarism tools that you guys, I'm sure, are aware of. And if not, we can certainly talk about it. So in summary, you need RCR certification for your undergraduates, graduate students, postdocs if they're supported by NSF, NIH. But do it anyway. I mean, it doesn't cost anything, a couple hours here and there. And most students that get in there, at the end, they love it. They're I didn't know any of this stuff. This is great. And then, just go to the pause talks and call me if you have any questions. I think that is the last one. Okay, so there you go. Thanks. Oh, if you want to get quick RCR certification, not quick, intense. The Shared Knowledge Conference, that's what this red sheet's about, which happens in the 23rd and 24th of April here in these rooms. It's a student conference for the most part. But on the Thursday afternoon, we're doing an RCR course, which means there'll be about 7 talks. The provost of Abdallah is one of the speakers, and we've got a couple others talking about big data, and they're all RCR topics, more or less. And that'll be sufficient with a couple of online things to get RCR certification. So if you're students or you want to attend that. And then also there is, for faculty, an ethics training for mentors the next morning, and all these include light snacks, by the way, on how to promote ethics in research. So, and what this is leading to is sort of a train-the-trainer sort of thing, so that you can actually get the material, get a toolkit on hand that you can teach your students or work with your students to get RCR certified. So I'd rather you guys tell your students what to do than I have to. So that's that. Thanks.
Thank you.
Cool. You guys survived. And I survived. So that concludes grants management training for the spring semester. We went through a lot of material. Thank you so much for your time and attention. You can actually access this Prezi online, like I said. If you wanted to see a little bit more of the information, you can actually zoom in. So what I'm doing on my mouse pad is I'm just going to zoom in, and I can make things bigger.
Oh, that's how that works.
Yeah, that's how that works. If you want any help navigating Prezi or just want any information on it, you can just contact me. My contact information is on the OVPR website. So the handout that you have on the very back, the very last page, is a training evaluation. So please fill this out. I do want to give more workshops to you guys, some that will be very helpful, hopefully. And the only way I can know if you need something is if you tell me. So definitely let me know, and I'll try to whip something up for you guys. We are going to be doing grants management again in the fall, but it's going to be a little bit different. We might have a little bit of online stuff, in-person things, maybe a little bit more interaction between you and the actual content knowledge people. So maybe some actual workshops on how to get your grant through NSF, or apply for more NSF or NIH grants. What are the different things to consider? And we'll have maybe some presenters from people who have actually successfully been awarded grants from these agencies. So yeah, let me know. Thank you again for your time and attention, and I hope you enjoyed this. If it was too fast paced, I apologize, but it was a lot of information, and I know you guys have very limited amount of time. We will be, so we did have this recorded, so we will post the recordings online, so you can view the presentations later on. Okay? Thank you. Let's give a round of applause for the presenters. Oh my gosh, so awesome. And again, you can leave your evaluations on the table.
I thought he was 5 o'clock, but he's like, what is he doing?
And we also have some materials. We have business cards if you want. Some of the presenters. And feel free to grab more food.